Peppa Pig is a show that stayed pretty much the same for 2 decades. But that started to change with the arrival of Evie, the new member of the pig family. But did you know that this means new characters are likely coming along as well? After all, if Evie is going to grow up, play, and go to school, she's going to need new friends, don't you think? Now that Evie is part of the story, it opens the door for other little ones to show up too. What if Susie Sheep got a younger sister? That would create a direct parallel with the relationship between Peppa and Evie, making the new little sheep the future best friend of the youngest pig. It would be like starting a new generation, with the daughters of the main characters following in the older one's footsteps. But there's a curious detail in all of this. Susie's dad has never appeared in the show. Nobody knows if he's away for work, if he and Mrs. Sheep separated, or if something more serious happened. The birth of a new little sheep would be the perfect chance to solve this mystery. Maybe the dad returns and brings the family back together. Or if he's out of the picture, the show might introduce a new partner for Mrs. Sheep. But there's also an old theory among fans that Susie was created in a lab, cloned from her own mother, which would explain the absence of a father. If that's true, the new little sister may have come about the same way. Could there be a cloning machine hidden in the basement? We still don't know. But what we can show you right now are the 8 new characters that are expected to appear in Peppa Pig. So get comfy on the couch, grab your snack, and subscribe to the channel. Another Zigzag episode is starting now. The Peppa Pig universe isn't limited to the real world. It also makes room for magic. Proof of that are the appearances of Santa Claus in Christmas episodes and even the Tooth Fairy, making it clear that supernatural beings exist and live among the characters normally. Now imagine if a future Halloween episode decided to bring in one of the biggest icons of classic horror. Yes, we're talking about Count Dracula himself. He's a legendary figure who's shown up in all kinds of stories, and he could appear in the show in a mysterious way, in a slightly darker episode, within the limits of what the show allows, of course. But what if he didn't show up just to scare or entertain? What if Dracula has already been around for a long time, disguised as someone much closer than it seems? There's a theory that connects the King of the Vampires to a classic character from the show, and it might totally change the way you see Madame Gazelle. The idea that Madame Gazelle is a vampire has stopped being just a theory for many people. With so many clues scattered throughout the episodes, you could even say it's practically confirmed. One of the weirdest is the fact that she has no reflection in the mirror. And that's not even speculation. The narrator himself said it. Not to mention she was the teacher of Peppa's parents and still looks exactly the same today. Not a single wrinkle. There's more. The tree next to her house is always full of bats, and she once mentioned that those animals remind her of the country where she was born. That suggests she came straight from Transylvania, none other than the land of Count Dracula. And since everything in Peppa Pig is carefully planned, it's easy to believe the writers included those references on purpose. The cherry on top would be if they revealed that Dracula himself is Madame Gazelle's father, or at the very least, the one who turned her, and maybe even her sisters, into vampires. If that really happens, it will be one of the most iconic moments in the show's history. Did you also uncover the mystery and believe she's a creature of the night? Then comment below with the hashtag #vampire. Peppa Pig is an animation created in the United Kingdom and doesn't hide the pride it feels for its origins. The show has already made a point of featuring the British royalty more than once, including special appearances by Queen Elizabeth herself, who even showed up in a few episodes in a very fun way. But reality came knocking in 2022 when the Queen passed away, and the show didn't ignore that moment. On its official social media pages, a touching tribute was posted with an image of the monarch alongside Peppa, a symbolic farewell that made it clear the series respects the icons of its country. After Elizabeth's death, her son took the throne, now King Charles III. With that in mind, it would make perfect sense for the show to continue this tradition and feature the new king in future episodes. Since the characters occasionally visit London, it wouldn't be strange at all if during one of those trips they met Charles, just like they met the Queen in the past. Unfortunately, little Evie didn't get the chance to meet the Queen like Peppa did, but there's still time for her to have a special moment with the new king, and to keep the connection between the animated world and the real history of the United Kingdom alive. Since we talked about the possible arrival of a little sister for Susie, there's something else we can't ignore: the disappearance of her father, the mysterious Mr. Sheep. To this day, he has never appeared in the series, and there are 3 possible explanations for his absence: work, separation, or some kind of tragedy. Among those, the most promising one to justify a return is that he's simply working far away. He might have even gotten a job in another country, which would explain both his disappearance and a curious detail from an old episode. Mrs. Sheep accepts a job offer abroad and decides to move there with Susie. When she loses that job, she's visibly upset. Maybe not just because of the money, but because the job was in the same country where her husband was. Maybe all she wanted was a chance to get closer to him again and bring the family back together. It didn't work out, but that doesn't mean the 2 of them can't reunite. Who knows? Maybe Mr. Sheep will return, quit his job, and decide to rebuild his life with his wife and daughter. It would be amazing to see that reunion, and even find out if he and Daddy Pig used to be co-workers or great friends. Can you imagine? We've seen many times how close Mommy Pig is with her own parents. Peppa's maternal grandparents show up often and live nearby, always getting into some fun mischief with the grandkids. But when it comes to Daddy Pig's side of the family, things are different. To this day, the only relative of his who has appeared is his brother, Uncle Pig. And his parents? Nothing. They've never appeared or even been mentioned. That raises a lot of questions, and many people have guessed they may have passed away or live far away. But there's another possibility, one that's a bit less tragic. What if Daddy Pig's father is still alive, but is a very private person who lives out at sea? Literally. A retired former captain who chose to live on a boat far from the city, away from everyone, enjoying peace and quiet. That kind of lifestyle may have caused some distance from the family. Not out of bitterness, but by choice. He would be the complete opposite of Grandpa Pig on Mommy's side, who loves gardening and is always getting involved in the kids' adventures. And the arrival of little Evie could be the push this old sea dog needs to leave the boat behind and reappear, even if just to meet his newest granddaughter. If that idea excites you, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss this big moment when it finally happens. Almost all the adults in Peppa Pig are already in relationships and have children. But there's one very curious exception: Miss Rabbit. If there's anyone she's committed to, it's the crazy work routine she leads. While Mommy Rabbit already has a bunch of kids, her sister lives alone, focused on her career. But what if one day that changes? Just imagine if the multitasking Queen of England finally falls in love. And to mix things up from her sister's story, Miss Rabbit's great love could be none other than Mr. Hare, a brand new character, very similar to her, but with a special kind of charm. He would move to town and be smitten right away. To get her attention, he'd try to follow in her footsteps and take on every job possible until he's completely exhausted, but the effort would be worth it. In the end, Miss Rabbit would agree to give him a chance and go on a date with her new admirer. Goldie, the family pig's pet fish, has already had some funny moments, like when she turned into a little ball from eating too much. But with Evie's arrival, maybe the family will decide to adopt a new pet, something more protective since the baby can't defend herself yet. A dog would be the most obvious choice. But what if they adopted a piglet? It might seem strange since they themselves are pigs, but the show has already hinted that there are normal animals in this universe. And it would be just like the relationship between Goofy and Pluto, a talking pig living with a pet pig that behaves like a regular animal. It would be hilarious to see George taking the new pet out for a walk.